Paulette asked me to give an overview on life coaching. So I'll just tell you a little bit about some of my experiences with life coaching, and then we'll look to the handouts. There might be one life coaching exercise we have time to go through in this hour. That's why you have the handouts. And I'll give you some information on what life coaching's meant from my perspective. And then I also have some case studies, because I think we can learn a lot from case studies. And we'll go over through that. So any questions you have in particular about life coaching, so I make sure this time is relevant for your needs? Or what is life coaching? Very good. We will address that. We'll answer the question, what is life coaching? That's helpful. I'll give you...
Differ from counseling.
Very good. 2 questions so far. What is life coaching? How is it different from counseling? Excellent questions. We'll make sure we cover both of those. One of the stories I want to tell was 15 years ago. In retrospect, I realized I hired my first life coach. Her name was Patricia Dorsey, and she was a woman living in Detroit who did what's called spiritual direction. People would come to her for some wisdom and guidance, and she asked me a question 15 years ago that I now see as a great coaching question. She said, Patrick, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I said, you don't understand, I have to make money. And she goes, no, I mean it, just dream. If you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And finally, when I settled down enough and took a deep breath, I dared to share with her a dream I'd kept secret for years. I said, I would play my guitar for kids in the hospital. And she really partnered with me. She was my first life coach. She said, well, let's look at that. That's a great dream, that you want to, in your call to be a healer, you want to somehow make a difference for kids in the hospital. And there was the dream of wanting to play my guitar for kids in the hospital. And about a month later, I talked to someone who worked in Children's Hospital in the emergency department, and she told me about her supervisor. So I made an appointment to see her supervisor, and I canceled it and put it off, like some of us do with massage school. You know, like, I think I'll get the application, but maybe I'll put it off. And finally, I talked to the woman who coordinated people caring for kids in Children's Hospital emergency department, and she was a chaplain, and she told me about a whole profession I knew nothing about. She said, well, you can come in the hospital and play your guitar for kids, but you need some training. We're not just going to let you loose. And she told me about a training program where I went to a hospital and became trained to be a chaplain. So about 10 years ago, I became a chaplain for people in the hospital and then later in hospice. And I share that story because in hindsight, I realized she was a good coach. So when we look at coaching today, I'll give you an overview of what it means to be a professional coach. Because like myself, you might be a massage therapist that's looking to add coaching to your practice down the road. But also, coaching is a skill you can use within your profession. As a massage therapist, you can ask good coaching questions of people that partner with them and empower them to take action with what they need to do next with their health. And you'll see that in the case studies, okay? So I just want to give you that example. One of the great things about getting ready for today is I don't think in hindsight I realized I was going to become a life coach. You know, you look back on your life and go, okay, I became a chaplain, I work with people at the end of life and people in health crisis, but I didn't call myself a coach. I mean, that word would never come to me because I wasn't athletic. I think of coach as, you know, for athletic skills. And then when I moved here to Omaha, I had my own kind of struggle with finding another profession because I didn't have a job right away. And that's when I met Paulette and like started getting excited about working with a massage school and got the skills you're all getting to be a massage therapist. And in working with a massage school, when we looked at things like an admissions program, bringing people here, and a business curriculum. And I still remember the first student we attracted was Kevin Costello. He actually got attracted to this whole thing we were creating here through a little flyer I made about if you want to find work you love, you know, contact me. I'll work with you. Now, I was doing career coaching, which is something I'm very passionate about, is partnering people about their careers. And I didn't even know what to call it then. I think back then I called it your career companion, because I knew I wasn't a counselor. I knew I wasn't doing therapy, because therapy is a lot more based on your pathology or your past and your thoughts and your feelings. I had a sense I wanted to work with people around their purpose and meaning, like what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Not talk about my past, like what my mom and dad did and didn't do, but what do I want to do with the future? So one of the opportunities I had with the massage school was to practice coaching skills, even though I wasn't calling myself a life coach. I was an admissions director and a business teacher. So about 3 years ago, I started working at Hearthstone Homes. They're a construction company in the community as a massage therapist. So I go there and do 5 hours a week of executive massage. And they have a coaching model there that they send all their people to. So I went to a course about 3 years ago and didn't know what I was getting myself into. But as I was taking the course, I realized this has a name for what I've been doing for years. And it was a coaching course called Mastering Life's Energies. So it was 3 years ago that I started the formal track of becoming a certified coach, taking the courses similar to massage school, some face-to-face training, documenting 200 hours of having coaching clients, things like that. So that's just some of my personal journey with it. Before I get into the specific handouts, like what is coaching as a profession, the definition, how is it different from counseling, I want to actually have you experience a coaching tool. One of your handouts there will say intentions inventory. And as you go through your intentions inventory, this might be a tool that a life coach would offer you to help you get clear. So take the example of going to massage school, and as you look at these intentions, go ahead and identify those intentions that are related to you going to massage school. And you can put them on a scale of 1 to 5. And just go down one at a time. And you can have all of them. You know, some of them might be a 5 or a 4, some a 1, 2, or 3. And we think about being a healer, going to massage school, what intentions are being fulfilled by that? As you scan down the list, circle the 1 or 2 that make your heart light up the most. You go, you know, that just has the most juice for me. They're probably ones you've marked a 5 or a 4. And just circle 1 or 2 of them. So just to give us a sense, just like shout out loud your intention. You know, just give us some examples.
Contributor to community.
To be a contributor to my community.
Well-respected professional.
A well-respected professional. Very good.
Physically fit and healthy.
To be physically fit and healthy. Very good. To be an effective healer. To be well educated.
Right, loving family.
To be what?
Right, loving family.
To be a loving family member.
A creator of beauty.
To be a creator of beauty.
To be an adventurer.
To be an adventurer. Very good. Well, the business teacher in me is saying, any successful entrepreneurs out there? Yes, that's a good intention. Yeah. Other intentions. What do you notice about these intentions as you not just spoke out loud your own, which takes some guts and courage, so thanks for doing that. Similar to my coach who said, if you could do anything in the world, what would you be? I was like, back off. You know, I just want to stay comfortable. Don't have me dream here. But as you identify your own intentions and as you speak them out loud, what do you notice? And as you listen to other people's intentions, what do you notice?
There's a passion for it.
There is a passion. Very good.
Takes effort.
Takes effort.
There are things that are already in your nature.
Yeah. There are things that are already in our nature. Excellent. Yeah. This is like who we are in our hearts already. So, and what you just did is you coached each other, because whenever you pause and remember what's already in your nature and what you're passionate about, you're coaching each other. You know, a good coach is different than a consultant or a mentor. If you were to hire me to mentor you in massage and consult with you, I would give you a lot of advice about what I've already done, which is good. You need mentors and consultants. A very skilled coach, though, will focus on helping you remember who you are. Okay? They'll say to just like in athletics, it's already in your nature to be excellent at this. I'm going to help you remember it and develop that. You know. So, good stuff. There is in the coaching model I've been certified to use, and I'll give you more information on where to get this information on the internet. That's all in the handouts. We'll get all to the details before we leave here. But in the coaching model I've been certified in, the teacher uses Joseph Campbell a lot. You know, kind of the follow your bliss, and there's a universal journey in his studies of myths around the world. He goes, we're all on a heroic journey to remember and discover what's already in our nature, to discover our passion. And that's a lot of what coaching is walking side by side with someone on a journey. Not walking in front of them and telling them this is how you do it, but walking side by side. And you could see where that has a lot in common with the work you're already called to do as massage therapists and healers. Hopefully we're not walking in front of people and telling them what's wrong, what they need to do different, but we're walking side by side with them. So, you'll see that clearly in the case studies I wrote up today. One case study, most of them are case studies from people who hired me to be a coach. One is actually from a massage client, because I was thinking of you all and saying, how do we make this real? Would someone please read the first case study?
Situation. A client speaks about the recent challenges of a sore ankle, recent divorce and mother's death. Intentions, desires. To be a well-respected professional, to be a contributor to my community. Outcomes. Client follows up with physician's recommendations to see a physical therapist. Client expresses appreciation to her neighbor for the support during her mother's death. Client continues volunteering at a church.
Very good. So this is the one case study that was actually a massage client. She didn't hire me to coach her, but as massage clients will, she was talking about her life. And then as I was talking with her, I asked her at time, are you open to getting some coaching on this and guidance? And all we did was simply identify her intentions. And then as she talked more, she identified what was her next step. And what's really interesting about that, if I put my consulting or mentoring hat on, there's probably a lot I could tell her to do about her sore ankle. I mean, what does pathology tell you to do with a sore ankle? Rice, yeah. But that's not what was interesting to her, because she already had that information. What was very interesting was her physician had already told her what to do with a sore ankle. And it was her saying, if I'm going to keep working and being a well-respected professional, keep doing the things I want to do, he's mentioned something about a physical therapist. Maybe I can go do that in the next week, okay? That's where coaching has a little bit different quality than advising or consulting or mentoring or diagnosing. And I love the coaching skills because, as you know, within our scope of practice, we don't want to do that anyways. So as soon as you have the person hop up to you, and because you're now a massage therapist, they ask you, what do they now do with whatever diagnosis they're laying out there? The questions you can be interested in are, well, what are you already doing to take care of that? See the hero in them on that journey of they're already doing things. What have you found out? And people often say, well, I know this expert that someone referred to me. It's just a matter of calling them and making the appointment. And that's when you're coaching. You're not telling them what expert to go to. You're not telling them whether the expert's advice was good or bad. You're just being with them in a way where you're listening to them and you're assuming something. It's kind of a radical assumption that they already have their own answers, that they're whole and complete, and that they just kind of need someone to listen to them in a way where they're clearing the air a little bit. So that's one of the reasons I presented that case study. How would this be different than counseling? It would be a different summary of the encounter. Counseling might be interested in some very different things. What might a therapist be interested in?
Finish the past or dig into how everything leading up to what she is right now.
Yeah, the past leading up to, well, tell me the story of the divorce. What did the jerk do to you? What did you do to him? All that stuff that we do need to get to in therapy, like how am I feeling about it? How am I thinking about it? Yeah. So you can see in this case study, it's a little bit different focus than a therapist would have with someone. Very good. Can you see that? Because that was your question, right? How might coaching be different than therapy?
I can see it. It's not so much digging into their past, you're just trying to get into the future, basically.
Yeah. When you see the definition of coaching up there on the top, what does it say?
Coaching is a new profession based on personal and professional growth and client-initiated change.
Yeah, exactly. Coaching is a new profession based on personal, professional growth and client-initiated change. Okay? So therapy is a lot more focused on healing the past. And this is someone's hiring you because they're saying, I have a book to write. Okay? And you'll see this spelled out in some of the case studies as I kind of flesh them out. I'll kind of give you a little bit more background on what the person was looking for and what happened. So, the profession of coaching, in the 1970s, executives would hire a coach a lot. They might not have called them a coach. They might have had a consultant, and they had the money and time to say, you know what, when I'm about to make this decision, it's $1 million decision. I need to make the right decision. Spend an hour with me thinking it through. What's happened, some of those professionals are starting to translate those same skills, saying, what about any of us? Not just about executive and business decisions, but what about life decisions? Before I make this decision or that decision, what if I hired someone to partner with me to help me remember my intrinsic nature and help me craft my next action? So that's what's happening in the coaching profession. And as you see in the handout there, if you want to do your own internet research, I'm not throwing a lot of information at you, because if you go to International Coaching Federation, that's the professional association that's accrediting coaching training programs and accredits individual coaches. And then the other information I put on there is the Academy for Coaching Excellence is the program that trained me. And they have excellent programs, so you can go to them. And then interesting footnote, this is all right above the case studies on that same sheet of paper. ABMP, who insures you all, yes. When I became a life coach, I needed to get liability insurance. I called ABMP and they included my coaching practice and my bodywork practice. So they had enough massage therapists approaching them saying, what about life coaching? What about life coaching? That the very same provider you use now will cover you. So if you become a life coach, you can call them and say, and it's the same rate. So that was, I was tickled by that a year ago. It saved me some money. Didn't have to get a separate policy. So those are some sources you can go to kind of explore more of the specifics. So, very good. Anything else about that first case study or about that whole question of how coaching may be different than counseling or another profession? It's very empowering. It's very positive. There's never a declarative statement like, well, your problem is you got this issue and this diagnosis. Right. It's very like what you were seeing. You have this intrinsic strength, and we sometimes forget about it. What I won't be able to get into today is there's then specific tools I'll use where people can observe the difference between their thoughts and their feelings and that passion and that intrinsic strength. And therapy is a little bit more interested in resolving and getting rid of some thoughts and feelings that are uncomfortable. Coaching saying, how can the thoughts and feelings stay there? And you design a game worth playing and move towards something. It's very powerful.
Pass go and collect $20.
Yeah. So, as we go through these case studies, we might be able to spell out some of those examples of how people do that with coaching. So, anyone want to read the second case study? And I'm mindful we're recording, so we might need to do it really clear, or maybe it's best for me to read it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The second case study, the situation is a manager of a program seeks support with feeling overwhelmed. So any of you ever been in business or managed programs like the massage school here? This is not Paulette, by the way. When this person identified her intentions to be a loving mother, to be a well-respected professional. And in this case, she's a nurse. And she takes an hourly position which returns her to direct service within her organization. She enjoys selling Mary Kay and being home more with her daughter. Yeah. Paulette doesn't sell Mary Kay. Yeah. So what do you see about that case study? Anything that interests you or?
Appears that stress is getting to her life and she needs to downsize a little bit, maybe, huh?
Okay. So if a client came to you and had that same situation, that might be something you see about them.
What she enjoys, maybe she should sell Mary Kay full time and spend time with her daughter at home.
Okay.
But how would you tell somebody? Or how would you suggest that?
Yeah. I mean, the important to remember is if a client's coming to me and they're laying all that out on the table, sometimes literally, you know, it may not be so important what I see about it. You know, because we could all right now tell her she should sell Mary Kay full time. Someone else could have another solution. You know, like she should take a class on how to manage people better. And you know, that's a challenging game to start playing, because what we end up doing often is kind of, I project my solution onto you, because if I really hold the high ground and say you intrinsically have the answer, why would I even give someone that type of advice? So it's just something to be interested in. If you notice you're giving people advice, who are you really talking to? Yeah. Now, people are really relaxing in our presence if we're getting free therapy. I just think you need to sell Mary Kay full time and not worry so much. It's like, that may be true for me. Okay? We all do this. It's just something to be very interested in when you're hired to partner with someone, to see the difference between supporting them and coaching them and giving advice. If you turn to the handout on the difference between supportive behaviors and codependent behaviors, who could clearly read for us the list of supportive behaviors?
They have their own answers. They are contributing to you. We are companions on a journey. You're supporting them in a way you'd want support if you were asleep.
Very good. So one of the reasons I personally am very passionate about coaching is it's woken me up to something in my life where I've been in a helping profession my whole life. Chaplain, massage therapist, teaching, but I've not always supported people. I've been very comfortable with being the other list. You know, let me just fix you right now, because it's kind of uncomfortable what you're talking about. Let me just give you the book to read. All right? So this is a fundamental decision we all need to make, whatever profession we're in. Whether you become a life coach or not is secondary, but is what conclusion you're going to hold for people. And this goes not just to our professional lives, but our clients, but our personal lives. You know, our kids, our family. Are they fundamentally whole, or are they broken? Because whatever conclusion you dance with, you can gather evidence for that conclusion. You know. Would someone read the second list?
They're broken and need to be fixed. Something wrong. They're not committed. They don't have their own answers. They are a drain on you.
So whenever we're noticing, oh my gosh, I'm not looking forward to this client coming, or this person, that's an indication for me to wake up and going, I'm putting a lot of energy in trying to fix something I'm seeing as broken. It's just like a little wake-up call. Can you relate to any of this all? Like this shift in perspective of, I might be the only one that's been in a helping profession that's tended on the more of the codependent side. And one of the things I appreciate about a coaching tool is if you hire me to coach you, and if I clarify what your intentions are, that's just one example of a tool that will help me be clearer on seeing how you already have your own answers. Like going back to the case study with the woman who was saying, I want to be a well-respected professional and contributor to my community. You know, I can either be very interested in saying, you know, how do we listen to her and support her towards that, or how do we find out what's wrong with her? You know, there's just two different ways of looking at people. Anything about this list that interests you, or questions you have, or comments? Does this apply at all to any work that you do? Yes.
It seems like most of our society is on the codependent side,
Yeah.
and that most of the interactions that we have or that people have with us are from a codependent,
Yeah, that's very true.
whether it's a doctor's office or wherever you go. You know, it's like our society thinks everybody's broken.
Yeah. We can do it as massage therapists. Oh my God, your shoulders are so tight.
You're broken, let me fix you.
It's as simple as that. And you know, where there's a time and place for that is sometimes people are hiring for us for that. There's a hat we put on, and you know, if your car's broken, I want you to fix it. You know, but that works a lot with like clear clinical things. But when people are talking about more emotional, spiritual things, even things related to mental health, trying to fix someone doesn't work so well. You know, so there may be a time and place for fixing something that's fixable, but really the discernment is what hat do I put on? Are you asking me to give you an answer, or are you asking me to walk side by side with you as you look at this? So I think of them as different caregiving hats. Will someone read the third case study?
Situation. A massage therapist or teacher wants to write a book, Intentions and Desires, to be an effective teacher, to be a contributor to my community. Outcomes. Client prioritizes current commitments and designs a plan for writing each week. She established a deadline for the draft of her book. She identified a support team who can hold her accountable to her dream.
So, anything you see about that case study, because we don't need to focus on all of them. These are just 10 examples of how people have hired a life coach. The other interesting thing about when you hire a life coach is the structure of it will look different than with other professions. You might pay for a session, a 6-session package over 1 month. Or you might pay and say, you know what, I'm hiring you to coach me in writing my book for the next year. That's the contract I have with this individual. And there's a coaching contract, very clear. You know, I agree to call you once a week at this time, and I'll pay this for the coaching package. And the other thing I really enjoy about it is a lot of my coaching clients are over the phone. You know, the support isn't face-to-face because there's not diagnosing going on. You know, it's like I don't have to see you. It's like listening, clarifying. Well, what did you say your intention was about that? Oh, yeah, that's right. And some other coaching tools we won't get into today.
What I find interesting about the first and the third one is they both state that they desire to be a contributor to their community, and in both cases, what I think is powerful is they accepted help from other people.
Yes.
She thanked her neighbor for support, and the third person found a support team for herself. So,
Very
I think
good.
that's important.
Yeah. The skill of asking for and receiving support, it's sort of obvious. It's like who's buried in Grant's tomb. But if you don't master that skill, if you say, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do it alone, no book's been written that way. So if people don't first see that as a skill set, and when they see it as a skill set, they stop thinking of themselves as a bad person. They go, you know, I've just never developed the skill, just like some people never develop the skill to play basketball, to ask for support. And then they might go into like, oh, but boy, do I have reasons for that. Let me tell you about my mother. If that's more of a psychological story, it's a great time for a coach to say, well, have you thought of hiring a therapist? And talking about that and working on that. For now, let's be very interested in the skill of asking for support. And the next week, who can you ask for support? It's very miraculous, because I can come to you as a client and say, I have writer's block and I can't write my book. And if you're a good coach and listen to me and help me remember my intentions and some other coaching tools, and in the next hour I write 1 paragraph, writer's block no longer exists. It's like an idea I made up in my head. You know. So you're very accurate in what you're seeing. A lot of things fundamental to coaching is a real basic skill of how do I actually let people support me, and how do I ask for support. And we're not good at this. Just like when people get coaching, they start having these experiences like a fish jumping out of water, and they go, well, look at what I'm doing to make life so difficult. I had that 3 weeks ago with a coaching session. I was getting coached, and I realized my sister came to Michigan to visit me, and I was complaining about people weren't supporting me and getting her to the airport on time. You know, and I was outside flipping burgers on the grill. There were 20 hamburgers, and I could see her through the slider, and I'm like, how come no one's helping me? And my coach pointed out, did you ask anybody? It's like, well, no, they should just know. You know, and that's a good drama to get caught up in. But, you know, I have a great coach. She was like, you know, if we ask for support in a specific way, if I say to people, you know, Tammy's about to go to the airport. I want to spend my last hour with my sister. Can someone finish off the burgers? They would have said yes. But sometimes I'd rather have my drama, you know. So a lot of what a coach does is help you decide, do you want your dreams or your drama? I mean, where do you want to put your energy? So that's a brilliant thing you see, because probably 90% of what I do is just supporting people with developing the skill set of asking for support in a very clear way.
Well, I've been talking about becoming a massage therapist or doing massage work for years, but I was scared. I mean, I kept talking about it, but never had the support. I still really don't have the support at home, but with the students here and Paulette, if it wasn't for them and asking for help, I wouldn't follow through. I mean, I have that desire, but you know, talking about it and doing it are two different things.
Yes.
And so, not to pat myself on the back, I'm really grateful that I did this and that I followed through and I'm doing it.
Very good. So what do you want to be acknowledged for?
My courage, my
Yeah.
stepping out and growing and learning and, you know, being 42 years old and then all of a sudden going back to school, that's kind of scary,
Yeah.
you know? And so I just thought, I'm just going to plunge into it, do it, and I'm very, very grateful that I did.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, that's the best case study we could have. We're done.
Thanks, Camille.
Yeah. And that's, life gets sweet when you start taking the mystery out of how are some people successful? Well, they find a community, they learn together, and they go further faster. Yeah. And you know, the skill set you did a very good job with right now, and I want to acknowledge you, is acknowledging yourself. That seems so simple, but people have so much drama over it. You know, we don't have time to get into that, but it's such a simple thing, but it's powerful when you just acknowledge yourself. And that's a coaching question, you know, much more interesting than the psychological stuff we put on people, like, oh my gosh, you have intimacy issues and you need to work less. I mean, I'd rather have someone say, Patrick, wow, a lot's going on this week. What do you want to be acknowledged for? The fact that I'm finding time for a massage. I'd rather have you focus on that than getting caught up in my drama. So one of the things that happens in a training program, if it's rigorous in coaching, you will get a very clear list of questions. Your general question about what's the difference between counseling and coaching, there are questions I'm not interested in anymore. Just because I know there's a million people you can go to get answers for that. And there's different questions I'm much more interested in. What do you want to be acknowledged for? And I'd rather spend more time in my life focusing on that. Real simple stuff, you know, giving, receiving support, acknowledging each other. Anything else you're seeing about what people are sharing? Actually, what you're sharing is much more interesting than anything I typed up on here. So, I mean, keep listening to each other. Had two really good comments so far, you know, about this giving, receiving support skill and acknowledgement. Anything you see about this for yourselves? One of the things I'm asking you right now is to look at the two people who just shared as heroes in a way, and to be interested in how are they coaching you? You know, what are you noticing? What lessons might they be teaching you that you could apply for your life? Or what do you want to be acknowledged for?
For instance, if you were to have a client and they're experiencing something that you've experienced in life, do you share that with them?
Give me an example. You might have
Like
experienced
this,
something
like this one person who was going through a divorce. Do you share your experience? If you were to say, have been divorced, or share your experience with that person?
So are they like a coaching client or massage client?
Coaching.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to focus on that right away. That's not what's most interesting to me right away. It's, I'm trying to think of an example. Like when that woman was speaking to me about that, it's so natural for me to think about, oh my gosh, I've been through the end of relationships, and that's really painful. And my stories start going. And at some point, if it really serves her, I think it might be appropriate. You know, after you really are clear on what is she needing. Because, you know, when a client's hiring us, it's about them. That's the main focus. Ethically, my responsibility is to support you. So there might be a time and place where it's helpful for you to know that there's someone else that's went through divorce and got through the other side. And then I would share it out of the purpose of it being therapeutic and helpful to you. It wouldn't be like, oh, let me compare notes with you about all the jerks out there. Mm-hmm. That's when I'm using you for free therapy. You know what I'm saying? So like I lead a lot of support groups where I do coaching, and I'll share with people that I've been treated for depression and that I've been treated for addiction. But I won't do it out of like, oh, like, you think you got a horror story, let me tell you my horror story. It's out of there's a purpose in sharing the story. And I've been coached on that, like you're getting coached. I've talked to mentors and teachers and said, is it appropriate for me to talk about being depressed with leading a support group with depressed people? They go, well, let's look at that. You know, what would be your intentions? And my intention is to be an effective healer, an effective teacher, and it totally shapes how I share the story and when.
I think when I learn things from people, it's usually from people who I identify with.
Yes.
If you're going to share your experience with me, and I was just share mine with you,
Yeah.
I might gather a little bit more.
Yeah. That's true. I've had people say that. The fact that I've been through something, it gives them a lot of hope. They identify with it. Mm-hmm. And so one thing you might want to clarify with a client is that serve their need to have them identify with someone right then? It's an assumption I think we all make.
So you more or less reaffirm what they already know rather than add suggestions to them.
I'm hoping I'm getting better at that. I often do. I go blah, 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 and then I go, that was all about me. You know, like I make mistakes every day with this, but then what I come more back to is like, you know, I just noticed, I told you about my divorce. Was that helpful? I might just ask, like, yeah, it was helpful. Or if they say nothing, I have a blank stare, I have a guess it wasn't very helpful. You know? So, because, you know, that's a good intention to want to support someone, that they can identify with people, but it's sort of like the, if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. If you give him a fish, you feed him for a day. I'm very interested, like my coaching client who's writing a book, I could offer to call her every day and say, let me support you with writing this book. I'd be getting very codependent. If I called all my clients every day, I wouldn't have any time to do anything else. I'm much more interested in her designing a support system. So when I have a client who's grieving, I don't talk a lot about my grief experiences. I get very interested in who do you know that's grieved? Well, my aunt does, but we never talked about it. Maybe I just need to have tea with her and say, what was it like when Uncle Bob died? I'm much more interested in that. And then that's very empowering when they come back a week later and say, you know what? It was so great to connect with my aunt. I identified with her. So I think people are hiring us to be facilitators, not their friends they identify with. But occasionally, a story is very helpful. You know, if you're clear about the purpose and sharing it.
But if you're coaching and says you obviously see something where it could be hurtful or disastrous or just plain stupid, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't say, well, maybe you don't want to do that, or would you kind of turn it around so maybe at least think about it before you
Yeah,
take that
like-
action or something, or?
Look,
I
that
mean,
list.
they're paying you
Yeah.
good money. I
Yeah.
think to keep them away from something like that, right?
That list of supportive behaviors, look at that in a minute, because you're talking to one of the principals there. It's a good example. What's the one that says you want to treat people the way you would be treated if you were asleep? Do you see that one? So if I was talking to you in any context, hiring you as my massage therapist, life coach, teacher, or we are friends, and I said, I just found out a deal too good to be true. They told me if I give them a cashier's check for $1,000, and as long as they don't tell anybody about this investments thing, I'm going to be a millionaire in a week. I would hope you'd say, you know what? I did that once and I lost $1,000. Like, wake me up at the wheel before I crash into something. Yeah. I'd want you to share that with me. Again, look at the principle. Don't try to make a rule out of it. The principle is what supports that person on their journey. So, do I use my life story to support my clients? Yeah. Some of the reasons they hire me is because they know I've been through some tough stuff. But when they come, the focus isn't about me. I'm hoping I'm growing towards how is the focus about them. That's a lot of the quality of coaching has like obvious stuff in it. It's like one of the metaphors we use in one of our coaching courses is if you're driving down a foggy road and the fog lifts and you see a 10-ton truck barreling towards you, you drive in the other lane. You don't pause and analyze your parents' driving patterns. You don't think, what would someone else do? You just kind of do it. So it has a kind of like discernment, like you just kind of, you course correct. So one of the things a coach might do, if it's very serious, would become the truck, like, get out of the way, But often people, when they're hiring a coach, their life's not at stake. You often have a lot of space to say, well, what do you see about that? Because I tell you, some of us, as soon as people tell us what to do, we don't want to do it anyways. So most of my clients have a lot of space and room to have them make that discernment. Like, yeah, maybe writing that check isn't a good idea. But sometimes you might speak up and say, you're about to get hit by a truck. What questions do you have about life coaching as a profession or coaching skills that you use in your own practice?
How long do you usually coach your clients for? Like, the average?
Good question. Someone will hire me for an initial session, and then by the end of the session, we'll look like I have someone that just referred a young healthcare worker to me, and in the first session, it might just be that one session. It'll look at, based on his desire to develop his career, we'll look at a coaching package of 4-6 sessions, over the next 2 months. Some coaches hire more for 6 months, a year at a time. I just seem to be in the package of 4 to 6 sessions over the next 2 months. That's the coaching contract, and then we'll look. And then because I'm so good, they'll rehire me again usually, but it's up to them.
Where do you get clients?
I right now work full-time at Allegiant Health and Behavioral Health, so I'm a full-time employee. I'm paid a lot to coach people all day long. So there might be managers in healthcare. They might be people that leave our treatment programs. And coaching's great if all of a sudden the doctor says, you're no longer depressed, bye. You're going like, boy, what do I do next? I'm available for some follow-up. And I get clients from word of mouth. Like I had a contract in January from an old colleague who said this physician's office, the nurses are in uproar, they're gossiping, and they're about to fire 2 people. Will you coach them? Oh, joy. But I actually love that because the coaching tools are so clear that the person makes a discernment. And so I get word of mouth clients where they have me have a group session with 2 people to have them develop their communication skills, things like that.
Physicians refer people to you?
In that case, a physician referred two of their coworkers. And, you know, we're just starting where I work at Allegiant, and what we're anticipating, like I get a referral from a mental health therapist now. We're anticipating getting physician referrals as this becomes clear. Like, what the heck is coaching in Omaha? It's very clear on the coast. It's getting clear. It's like massage, you know.
It's like if a mental health worker refers somebody to you and their insurance covers their mental health, would it cover what you
Doesn't cover what I do.
get?
Yeah. It's not covered by that. There's some, my sense is there's some therapists who are doing coaching and therapy, and I'm not sure how they're getting billed and how they get paid for it. But one of the things I love about coaching is there's 100% responsibility. Like, if any of you wanted to, something Paulette and I can talk about, if you ever want to do a coaching group, that's another thing that I do with people, like either over the phone or we get together in a common location, 5 to 10 people, you know, each bring $10 and we do it 6 weeks in a row, and they get real clear on what they want to do next with their business or their career. I like that. It's all paid up front because it really enrolls people. I've needed to do that. Take a deep breath and go, am I really going to pay someone this much for a coaching package? And it really makes me kind of say yes. You know, sort of like when you pay your massage school tuition. Yes. You know, it really enrolls you. It's a good thing.
How long did you go to school? Is it a master's degree?
It's a certification track. And if you look at International Coaching Federation, they'll give you some real minimal ways to start coaching. It's a self-regulated profession. So just like massage in some states, some people are coaches because they say they are. Most people, my sense is they're affiliating somehow with the International Coaching Federation. And so the training program that I chose is actually very rigorous by most standards. I did 5 courses, each a week long, face-to-face in California. I did several telephone coaching. And I had a mentor coach. I paid $100 an hour for like 20 sessions over a year. And then a lot of peer coaching with the people in the program. It was very rigorous, based on coaching standards right now. So you can do very coaching light if you want, do a correspondence weekend thing, or you can, like the academy I got certified by, people might get certified by other processes, but take like their first course because they want to be interested in that model.
What courses do you have to have?
Do I have to have? That academy has its own track. Just like Universal College does, but there's no one out there saying you got to have these courses. If you look at International Coaching Federation, they have real minimal levels for people just starting out, and it goes all the way up to Master Certified Coach, which is where you demonstrate 1,000 hours of coaching. So they have tracks, levels. Yeah. Other questions? Very good. Well, thank you for your time, and your questions made this very relevant. Thank you for your questions, like, well, would you say this or not say this? And thank you everyone who contributed.